Welcome, everyone. Tonight's chat: how do I practice spirituality? This is a great topic, so let's get to it. In my work, I meet, various types of folks from different backgrounds, different walks of life, of course. I meet people who are agnostic, they have no sense of God or no God. They believe or they don't believe. They really sit on a proverbial fence, not looking in either direction. They just kind of accept life is unfolding. I do meet people that are very extreme, very, very sincere, good people who are atheistic. They feel that the idea of a God or an eternal being or an entity that hovers and guides and judges all humans and all conduct for all time is more a movement of imagination and fantasy. They just don't believe in it. They're atheos, or they have no acceptance of a individual God. I have met people that are polytheistic. They believe in multiple gods. Some of my friends come from the Hindu people, and they have endless gods, it seems, in their particular faith. Me coming out of a Christian Catholic tradition, we have the primary person, which people call Jesus or the Christ, and under that banner we have angels and saints and martyrs and archangels and Jesus' Mother Mary, the Blessed Mother, and so on and so on and so on. We have various types, and the list goes on and the list goes on and the list goes on. My point is that all of these pretty much, whether it be my Buddhist friends, my Hindu friends, my dear Jewish friends, it doesn't matter. They have all some form of a religious approach to expressing their life, expressing how they act in the world, how they respond to the troubles and challenges of things that confront them, right? Whether it be joyful or sorrowful, they lean on this sense of an identity through their religion. And we are not here really to contrast religion and spirituality, but they do have an intersection. So I really want to make sure we're on the same page. So with respect to all of you out there, regardless of your backgrounds, this is not a religious conversation. There is no sense of trying to convert or persuade or dissuade anyone from their comfort zones of what you accept as true or not true for your own personal experience. We are talking about spirituality. Now, this becomes under a completely different banner. I have met people, again, who tell me they're deeply religious and spiritual. I have met people who told me they were religious and are no longer religious and have become spiritual. I have met people that tell me they want to become more spiritual, which is kind of where we're leaning a little bit tonight. So, what exactly is a spiritual life? What exactly is spirituality? What is it? In some folks that I've sat with, they told me that they live a spiritual life. They become vegan. They are vegetarians, which is very nice, by the way. They've abandoned certain social habits: no smoking, no drinking, no eat meat. They wear more of a yoga style of clothing. They look and pursue a simpler lifestyle. They perhaps move to a mountainous region, or they move into a more quiet community of life, a more peaceful flow. They perhaps turn away from electronic devices. You don't find them often for hours in front of a computer, or perhaps spending hours on a phone, or watching endless movies or TV shows. They suggest that they practice more time in woods, around nature, and so on, which is all very, very beautiful. I'm not condemning an electronic lifestyle, nor am I applauding more of a natural lifestyle. A person is instinctively drawn to certain things. For example, almost anyone I've ever met enjoys going to an ocean, going down by the sound of a river, sitting alongside of a stream, to be around nature in its flow and its natural state. Most people I meet enjoy uh, some form of wildlife, whether it be a deer running in the woods or a rabbit on their front lawn, they enjoy it. It doesn't necessarily mean it is spiritual, right? It just means they're drawn to certain things that are less pounding in their head, less active in their body, and on and on. So I asked the question, so let me respond to it. What is spiritual? What is a spiritual life? The simplest direct answer is a spiritual life is a life living in complete, total freedom. Freedom. No separation, no anxiety, no fear, none of it. That is a spiritual life. Now that sounds like a very tall order. It sounds like something that someone would find in a fantasy book, or it is the elite sector of only certain Zen monks or certain Buddhist monks or some cloistered Catholic nuns living in a secluded monastery, or perhaps someone who is spending time in hermitage or living in a monastic life or seems to go away from the world, claiming under the umbrella that that life is spiritual, right? So what does this complete freedom mean? Now this is going to get a little direct, so I want to make sure we're on the same page. Myself, yourselves, all of us, I mean all of us, have been raised to come up with certain beliefs. We have been taught certain ideas. We have been given an identity at birth. We have been taught certain cultural conditionings. We have been taught what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong for social conduct, right? In certain cultures, the harming of an animal is considered high attributes. The hunting and killing of animals is considered to be the sign of a warrior. Many of rites of passages are presented this way, not only in foreign cultures, but right here in the USA. Young American, Native American Indians way back in the day would earn their stripes, as it were, by hunting down a deer on their own, or perhaps pursuing a bison or a buffalo. And they would come home with the horn or the pelt, and the tribe would salute their heroics. They call them being a brave, someone who was stood up against their fear, you see. So in various cultures, various personalities, this concept of an idea, a pursuit of an idea, people suggest the pursuit of an idea is also a spiritual pursuit. So this next piece is very specific, so please listen to this. Anything born out of human thought, anything cultivated by the illusion of thinking, cannot be spiritual. It may be impassioned, it may be romantic, it may be attractive, it may be sexual, it may be sensual, it may carry a certain charisma to it, it may come with robes, it may come with incense, it may come with urns and the chimes and the bells of tradition and ritual, all of which is very, very beautiful. I'm not in any way minimizing the sacredness for many of you that practice these things. Please don't misunderstand me. But when you look at it intimately, when you look at it in a meditative depth, all of the rituals, all of the robes, all of the practices are driven by another person's insights to what they suggest is the path to spiritual practice. And people have joined spiritual communities, and many people are still involved. They attend yoga communities, they attend meditation communities, spiritual practice communities, and they're fully involved, and they're great people that do really, really beautiful things for people, and they have good humanity in them. And there's no criticism here at all. Believe me, I'm very honored to know all of you who come from that cloth. However, please go a little bit past this place. Please understand you are following a prescription, whether it be one written in word or whether it be spoken to you by another, or whether someone is promoting virtues and ideas that you are willing to accept or reject depending upon your comfort zone, depending upon your willingness to be open to what they are suggesting to you, what is spiritual. Spirituality can never, ever be experienced through another person's experience. It just cannot happen. It is like saying to someone, I know you're in love with somebody. I sense you're in love with somebody. Therefore, I want to feel the way you feel, and I will make myself feel that I am in love with somebody else. Thus, you're falling in love with the idea of being in love. When you deeply fall in love, like mother to child, it rises spontaneously, it rises automatically, it rises in less than one breath, and it is as true and as vibrant without words. I've asked in public sessions from time to time, you may have even heard me do it, I've asked mothers especially, of course, to describe what it's like to love their child, and they tell me all the things they would do because they love their child. And I politely say to them, I'm not suggesting that you don't have great and high ambitions and great protective instincts for your beautiful child. Of course you do. You're the mother, right? It's given to you. It's a gift of grace. You've received birth, and you have this beautiful child, and every bit of your pores, every bit of your cellular structure is devoted to that child. Where does that come from? Where does that love come from? You didn't have to create it. You didn't have to make it happen. And that love only exists in the moment. Can you remember with memory what it was like to first fall in love with your child? Sure. Can you project outwardly that one day you're going to continue to love your child? I will always love my child? Sure. But where does love really rise? And love can only be known in the sacred one moment. If you want to pull the word out of here, you can drop in the word spiritual light. You can put the word spirituality into the moment. Thus, how do I practice staying spiritual in the moment? Anything else that one suggests that I am spiritual, suggesting the comment, I am a spiritual person, meaning my ego, my personality wants to feel unique. I want to step aside from religious ideas. I want to step aside from political commentary. I want to have this separate spiritual experience that I can claim to myself and to others that I am a spiritual practitioner. On one level, that sounds really lovely. It sounds very nice. But that is a self-fulfilling comment. In meditative work, in spiritual practice, which we're discussing right now, one comes to learn to die to the egoic self. The identity of the me falls away. Thus, the idea that I am being spiritual, and by practicing a certain routine of thought and movement, I will become more spiritual as I grow in spirituality. Thus, my practice must be ripened into the future. All right? Now, if you go back to the mother that had the baby, love is there. Does she practice having to love her child? No. But through experience of raising her child, caring for her baby, developing that little one into an infant, to a toddler, into a elementary school, high school, adult person, that love is the constant. The methods, the techniques that the mother or the parents use to help that child expand and grow in the world of the human, that's a separate entity. Please don't confuse the two. If you send your child to school wearing flip-flops and cotton fiber pants made in India with a mala around their wrist or a wristband of beads, which is beautiful, now, I'm not criticizing it, it doesn't make the child spiritual. It just doesn't. You may have the child thinking they're spiritual because you're dressing them a certain way, or they're shaving their heads, or they're wearing certain clothing. It doesn't make it spiritual. It simply says, We aspire to this spiritual idea, and we're trying to cultivate this around the child. We're trying to cultivate it in the house. And that in itself is very nice. Please don't misunderstand me. It's all good stuff. However, that is not spirituality in practice. It is the ritual of spirituality in practice, not spirituality. The mother that is nursing her baby, feeding her son, walking him to school is love walking. That is spiritual. Spirituality has no disconnect. It is complete freedom. It is complete freedom to love without any holding back. So I want to underline this before we continue. Anything that is truly spiritual can only be experienced in the one moment. It cannot be found anywhere else. So when people attempt to become spiritual, what they're implying is, I am not spiritual enough because that man or that woman or that person tells me I have work to do, right? When you are carrying fear, when you are carrying anxiety, when you are carrying projections in the future, when your mind is holding on to the past, when you are grieving the loss of someone, when you're grieving your own loneliness, when you're grieving the fact that you perhaps with respect cannot bear a child, when you are grieving that your husband will no longer talk with you, whatever, or vice versa, your wife will no longer talk to you, you won't talk to her, whatever it might be, all of that points to the absence of freedom. It's the absence of freedom. And people think by taking on certain practices, they can shatter that and find the freedom down the road. One of my teachers said to me many, many years ago, either you do it now or you never do it. I said, well, if I practice long enough, it'll happen down the road, won't it? No. No, it will never happen to you, Robert. You will never have an experience. I'm like, what do you think? Because I couldn't understand it. I said, I can't do it. I'm trying. I can't do it. If you don't do it now. What he was doing was, right, this was a Zen master from Japan. What he was pointing to was the moment, the sacredness of the moment. There's a very famous expression that the Zen community uses. It's very famous. Some of you may have heard it if you're in practice at all, a little bit, you may have heard it. It says, carry water and chop wood. Now, carry water, chop wood is referring to some of the tasks that are assigned to the Zen monks in the monasteries. I did it myself. I was never an ordained monk, but I spent time in Japan and I spent time here in the States in the monastic life, and I never took vows or anything. But I was fairly involved, and in the morning after breakfast, we would be sent out to do tasks, gardening or this or that. And the quote, carry water, chop wood, permeated through the Zendo or through the Zen training center, meaning when you lift or chop wood, when you chop it for the fireplace inside to stay warm, put all of your effort into it, your heart, your soul, feel every movement of the axe, feel every movement of the wood splitting. Feel the wood as it climbs into your arms as you carry it back up the hill into the main house. When you carry water and you've got wooden buckets, wooden pails, and you're carrying them back up the side of the mountain, up the steps, into the monastery for a bath or for fresh water, pay attention completely to what you are doing. Otherwise, you are split. I got to get rid of this task so I can go to the next task. I want to get something that's more fun than carrying water here. I want to become an enlightened being, and I want to spend more time meditating. I don't want to do this stuff. Once that occurs, and it happens a lot in time, a lot. People get very, very irritated that somehow by attending a spiritual community that suddenly they're not exploding in enlightenment and bells and whistles are going off. And they find out that spirituality is nothing more than having a cup of tea. It is nothing more than brushing your teeth. It is nothing more than showering your body. It is nothing more than a mother holding a child. When I say nothing more, I mean it's everything. It is everything. When you fully pay attention to the moment that you're in, you are in spiritual practice. When you pay attention to another speaking completely, listening before coming up with an answer in advance, this is spiritual practice. When your child approaches you with a problem, to really sit and really listen is spiritual practice. I have met many people in robes. I have met them who come across in the community, or in the Sangha, we call it, in the community, that present themselves as very spiritual people. And I've met people in religious cultural circles that present themselves as very religious. They have the chains, they have the medals, they have the headwear, you name it, they have it. And then you meet them privately and they're talking about other people, they're whispering dark thoughts, they're talking about sexual fantasies gone crazy, they're talking about hurting other people, they're talking about this, they're talking about that. And it becomes very, very disappointing. And frankly, this is why many people do kind of faint away from religion. Please understand, people in religious life are human beings, and they are frail, and they are fragile, and they have human conditioning, and they are just as vulnerable to the world, right? Many people, I think you guys understand this, and I'm sure you do, enter into the religious life, or what they claim to be spiritual practice, like we're describing tonight, to escape the life they have. I don't want this life. I don't have enough money. There is too much pressure. My daughter is giving me a hard time. My husband has turned into a lazy guy. My wife doesn't want to go back to work. I am angry. I am irritated. I can't get away from this craziness. Therefore, I will become spiritual as a form of avoidance. And in your heart of hearts, deep down, if you are entering into spiritual work as a form of avoidance, of a rejection of the world itself, this is called hiding in spiritual practice. It's a form of denial. It is a form of hiding. So bringing it back, spiritual practice is very, very simple. It is not driven by fear. It is not driven by the demand to change. It is not driven because other people are doing it or claiming they're doing it. It is the simple practice of allowing your natural state, this incredible natural state that you guys have, that I have, my children, my family, we all have it. We were born a spiritual entity. When the thought machine started, it began to override and cover our natural state. In some practices, when you return back to this natural state, it is called salvation. In other cultures, it's called enlightenment. And all that simply means is that you see clearly that all of the confusion, all of the drama, all of the insanity, all of the repeating of self-harm. Remember, your brain is yours. It causes your grief. It is the warden of your own prison. You are controlling the show. You may not feel that way, and you may lay in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and can't shake your thoughts out of your head. And if that's the way it is in a spiritual practice, you sit and observe the mind trying to upset you. You simply watch it in the same way you watch yourself, as it were, carrying water. And when someone is being close to you and very loving to you and caring to you, you simply watch it. I don't mean think about it. I'm not talking about thinking about something that is occurring. I'm talking about witnessing it with your whole being without any suggestion of control, neediness, power, demand, exclusion, all mine, not yours, and so on and so on. All of this is the shedding. And as you evolve, you will begin to see how much of your suffering, how much of your struggling is created by you or your reactions to what is occurring around you. If you have grief, that is the truth of your soul. You are grieving. You are grieving. You are grieving because something has occurred that you did not want to happen. And yet it has happened. So therefore, in spiritual conflict, I want to go into spiritual light. I want to go into a spiritual practice. I want to perhaps offer prayer so I don't feel this way. And yet I do feel this way. I do. And that's the truth of it. Thus, the expression, the truth will set you free. That statement is pointing directly at spiritual practice. It points directly to the moment. The Buddha said it's the light within yourself. It's in this moment. If you choose to wear robes, go for it. If you choose to wear mala, go for it. If you choose to burn incense or smudge or light candles or cover yourself with crystals, go for it. All of those things, which are pleasant to people, no argument. I'm not suggesting you don't do it, but understand deep down, why are you doing it? Why? And the answer is because there's a fear there. There is an anxiety there. Be honest with yourself, please. When you see that there is a fear, look at the fear. What is it that frightens me so much? What is it that is breaking my heart? Do you have the courage? Do you have the spiritual practice to stay with it? Can you stay with the suffering? Can you stay with the sorrow? Can you? That is the sign of spiritual work. When you feel great love, the depth of great love, stay with it. One of the great poets of all time, Elavani Rumi, I often refer to him when I do some chats. That young man's a young man. He was back in the 12th century. But he said, fall in love and stay there. He did not mean in love with another. He didn't exclude the other. But he did not say stay in love. You ever hear the expression, God is love? Have you ever heard that? Sure. So what is he saying? Fall in love with God light. Not the God that you think of. Not the God that's on a picture on the wall. Not the God that someone's telling you to believe in and you don't know what to do because you're scared to death. It's a matter of surrendering to the awe of the present moment. My friends, if you like the word God, I'll use it for this chat. That is where God sits. That is where the house of God is. Within you. Right? Within you. Within you. You are it. It doesn't happen out there and you're just watching it like you're watching a movie. You are it. You are the spiritual work. You are the spiritual practitioner. And you will come to see this. It's a spontaneous thing, by the way. It just rises as a result of not trying. I know this sounds crazy, but you don't have to try. It is when you try to be something other than you are that you get frustrated and you become angry and you become disappointed and say, the hell with it. I'm not doing this crap anymore. I'm miserable. Excuse me, I'd rather have 4 whiskeys or take a few pills and get rid of my misery. You can take that path. Go for it, right? The consequences will be dire, but that may be your decision. I hope it's not. I hope it's not. But sit still within yourself. Really? You are so sacred, so beautiful, so loving, so powerful, so gorgeous inside. Oh, my dear friends, look at yourselves and see what resonates within you, this beautiful gift. So when I chose to do this little chat tonight about practicing, I almost didn't want to put that word practice in, but we kind of did it, because you don't have to practice loving your child. You don't. Every child, of course, makes their parents crazy a little bit, sure. And you may feel irritated for a while, sure. That's understandable. No one's telling you to flow through the days with no issues. But when you begin to see them as a result of what you have been conditioned to do, thought about doing, how you've been told to react, how you've been told to respond, started even as early as getting your name, Robert. From the time I was born, I'm Robert. I responded to the conditioning of my name, Robert. If they called me Alexander, I wouldn't have turned, right? My name is Robert, so I respond to that. All of that is built up conditioning. And quite frankly, over time, it becomes a prison. It may be a comfortable prison. It may be a pleasant prison, but it becomes contained. You become not a free person. You become not a spiritual process. You don't. What you simply become is a follower. And when you are a follower, there is no freedom. There is no freedom in following. You may have a sense of community, you may have a sense of ease, you may have a certain sense of community cohesiveness that makes you feel secure, right? You know, one of the questions as we kind of come down on this chat is, why do we seek security? I'm not talking physical security, locks on your front door and all that stuff. I'm talking internally. Where has this feeling of being separated or insecure come from, almost to the point at which we have to beg for mercy? Where is this coming from? And it's coming from the fact that you have been taught to interpret yourself as always needing, wanting, demanding, asking, begging for. Can you see this? Or can you surrender yourself to the grace that surrounds you, the love that holds you, and whatever winds move your way, you handle them as they arise. Thus, as you carry the water, as you chop wood, you put your heart and soul into it. This is your life. This is your life. Do not live it through the words, the followings of others. If they help you see this, by all means. And again, I'm not criticizing or attacking anyone's faith or belief or religion. I'm not. If you choose that path, by all means, continue. But this is about the spirit part, the part that is born into us by the eternal one life, which I choose to call God. That's my choice. You may not agree, that's fine, but that's my choice. The entity, the awe of this wonderful, wonderful gift of grace we've all received with all its love, every bit of it flowing through us. And all we have to do is stop and pay attention to it and listen to it with this, not with this. I've shared this comment, I don't know if it was in the last talk or the talk before, whatever. There's another example of a spiritual pointer. All of this stuff is a pointer, by the way. It all points. And it says the distance between your head and your soul is only 18 inches. Right? The heart, the soul, the essence. And most people never make that trip in a lifetime. They're always listening to everyone else, telling them how to live, telling them what to do, what to believe, what to think, what to eat, what not to eat. Do this, don't do that. You're making a sin, you're doing this, you're doing that. All of that was never born by the soul. All of that is born out of human thought, and out of human thought, which is normally driven mainly by fear and control, has generated much of this. So when you are on your practice spiritually, stay in the moment. If you're in your practice spiritually, no matter how hard it gets, be in love. Be in love. Be in love with this moment. Be in love with the God of your understanding. Be in love with the people around you. And if there are those that are hurting you or harming you in some way, you're not a punching bag. You're not a doormat. You can forgive them, but you also keep distance from the hot stoves of the world. They do you no good. They do you no good. That's on the external process. Internally, stay settled. Take a moment to breathe. Stay calm and easy. This is practicing spirituality. It all points to one thing, and that is the dissolution of self. When you are fully here, there is no ego involvement. You are simply a reflection of life itself in all its beauty and all its love and all its joy. And that is a gift you all have. It is a gift freely given to you. That is spiritual practice. Thank you for joining me.